Hello students, today I'll explain you the second part of the fourth lesson of supplementary reader book Moments, and the name of the lesson is The Kingdom of Fools. Poor thing, she is absolutely right, thought the king, weighing the evidence. We have got the real culprit at last. Get the goldsmith, wherever he is hiding, at once. Now when the king was told by the dancing woman that it was not her fault but it was the fault of the goldsmith who kept on calling her again and again to his shop, and she had to move up and down his shop, because of which the bricklayer got distracted and the wall was built weak. The king realized that it was not the girl's, not the dancing woman's mistake, but it was the mistake of the goldsmith. So he sent his men to call him soon. The king's bailiffs means men, the king's bailiffs searched for the goldsmith who was hiding in a corner of his shop. When he heard the accusation against him, he had his own story to tell. So when the goldsmith came to know that king's men have come there to catch him, he brought his own story to the king to save himself. My lord, he said, I am a poor goldsmith. It's true, I made this dancer come many times to my door. I gave her excuses because I couldn't finish making her jewelry before I finished the rich merchant's orders. So he told the king that it was not his fault, but he kept on calling the dancing girl again and again to his shop because he had to complete one merchant's orders. He had to make his jewelry before the dancing girl. They had a wedding coming and they wouldn't wait. You know how impatient rich men are. So he said that it was his fault, because of which the dancing girl had to come to his shop again and again. Who is this rich merchant who kept you from finishing this poor woman's jewelry, made her walk up and down, which distracted this bricklayer, which made a mess of his wall, which has now fallen on an innocent man and killed him? Can you name him? So the king asked the goldsmith the name of the rich merchant, because of whom the wall was built weak. The goldsmith named the merchant, and he was none other than the original owner of the house whose wall had fallen. And now when the goldsmith told the name of the merchant, it was the same merchant whose wall had fallen on the thief. Now justice had come full circle through the king back to the merchant. When he was rudely summoned back to the court, he arrived crying, It wasn't me but my father who ordered the jewelry. He is dead, I am innocent. So when the merchant was brought to the king's court, he cried and said that it was not my fault because the wall was built on the orders of my father, and it was not me who got the wall built, and moreover it was not me who got the jewelry to be built by the goldsmith, it was my father. So my father is dead and I am innocent, so I should not be punished. But the king consulted his minister and ruled decisively. It's true, your father is the true murderer. He is dead, but somebody must be punished in his place. You have inherited everything from that criminal father of yours, his riches as well as his sins. I knew at once, even when I first set eyes on you, that you were at the root of this horrible crime. You must die. So the king consulted his ministers and told the merchant that this is true, that your father has died and he was to be punished, but because he is dead, so somebody must be punished in his place. And because you have got everything of your father's, all his property, all his riches, everything you have got, so you will get his sins also. Whatever mistakes he has done in his life, you will get that also. So, as a result, you will be punished. So, he ordered that he should be killed as a punishment. And he ordered a new stake to be made ready for the execution. And he ordered his men to make a new stake. Stake is a sort of a place where someone's neck is put and it is cut with a sharp knife. So, he ordered his men to make a new stake for the execution of the merchant. As the servants sharpened the stake and got it ready for the final impaling of the criminal, it occurred to the merchant, it occurred to the minister that the rich merchant was somehow too thin to be properly executed on the stake. He appealed to the king's common sense. The king too worried about it. So when the new stake was prepared for the execution of when the king's men prepared a new stake for the merchant, they came to know that it was too thin to be properly executed. The merchant was very thin that he could not be properly executed on the stake. So they told this problem to the king, and king also became worried about this. "What shall we do?" he said, when suddenly it struck him that all they needed to do was to find a man fat enough to fit the stake. So finally the king decided that because the stake was for a fat man, now a fat man is to be searched to be executed on the stake. The servants were immediately sent all over the town looking for a man who would fit the stake, and their eyes fell on the disciple who had fattened himself for months on bananas and rice and wheat and ghee. So the king's servants immediately went throughout the town and they started looking for a fat man, and finally they came to see the disciple who had become now a very fat man, eating a lot of bananas and rice and wheat and ghee because the food was very cheap in that town. "What have I done wrong? I am innocent. I am a sannyasi," he cried. "That may be true, but it's the royal decree that we should find a man fat enough to be fit the stake." So when he asked them that what is my fault, "I am a sannyasi, I am innocent, I have not done any wrong, so why are you catching me?" So the king's men said that it's all right that you are a sannyasi, but still this is the king's orders and we have to find a fat man to fit to the stake to kill. That is why we have caught you, they said, and carried him to the place of execution. And telling him this thing, they took him to the place where he was to be executed. He was to be killed. He remembered his wise guru's words, "This is a city of fools. You don't know what they will do next." While he was waiting for death, he prayed to his guru in his heart, asking him to hear his cry wherever he was. So at this time he remembered the words of his guru, that this is the town of fools and you do not know what they will do to you one day. The guru saw everything in a vision. He had magic powers. He could see far and he could see the future as he could see the present and the past. He arrived at once to save his disciple who had got himself into such a scrape through love of food. Now he started praying to his guru, and Guru heard and listened everything in his vision because he was a visionary man. He could not even see the past and present, but he could also see the future. So he arrived over there to save his disciple. As soon as he arrived, he scolded the disciple and told him something in a whisper. Then he went to the king and addressed him, "O wisest of kings, who is great, the guru or the disciple?" "Of course the guru, no doubt about it. Why do you ask?" "Then put me to the stake first, put my disciple to death after me." So he went over there and first he scolded his disciple and then asked the king one question that, King, you are such a wise man. Now who do you think is greater, the guru or the disciple? The king said, of course, guru is greater. Then he said, then when I am greater, then put me to the stake first. Kill me first before killing my disciple. When the disciple heard this, he understood and began to clamor, me first, you brought me here first, put me to death first, not him. So, the disciple also understood the game that his guru was playing, and he also went near the king and told him that because you have brought me here first, so you would have to kill me, not my guru first. The guru and the disciple now got into a fight about who should go first. The king was puzzled by this behavior. He asked the guru, why do you want to die? We choose him because we needed a fat man for the stake. Now the king and his ministers, they were very much puzzled that what is happening, why they are fighting to die first. So he asked that what's wrong with you people, why you want to die? He asked the guru that why you want to die? I wanted your disciple because he is a fat man for the stake. You shouldn't ask me such questions, put me to death first, replied the guru. Now the guru said that I won't answer any of your questions, but you should kill me first. Why? There is some mystery here, and as a wise man, you must make me understand. So the king said that because you are a guru, you are a wise man, you should tell me everything, that why you want to die first and your disciple want to die first. What's the mystery behind this? Will you promise to put me to death if I tell you? Asked the guru. The king gave him his solemn words, means true, pure words. The guru took him aside out of the servants' earshot and whispered to him, do you know why we want to die right now? The two of us, we have been all over the world, but we have never found a city like this or a king like you. This stake. So, then the guru told the king that we have gone to many places but we have not seen such a city, great city like this city and a great king like you. That stake is the stake of God of justice. It's new and it has never had a criminal on it. Whoever dies on it first will be reborn as the king of this country, and whoever goes next will be the future minister of this country. We are sick of our ascetic life. It would be nice to enjoy ourselves as king and minister for a while. Now keep your word, my lord, and put us to death, me first, remember. So, the guru was a wise man. He played a trick. He wanted to save his disciple from the trap of the king and his men. So he played this game, he played this trick. He told the king that I have visited to many places but we have not seen a king like you and a country like this. So I want to die here first because whosoever dies first will become the king in his next life. He will be born as the king of this country in his next life, and whoever dies on this stake second will be the minister of this country when he will be reborn, because this stake is the stake of God of justice. It's a new stake and it has not killed any criminal on it. So whosoever will die will become the king, and whosoever will die second will become the minister of the country. So now he said that now this is the reason, this is the mystery why I want to die on this stake first. So now keep your words you have promised me, and you put us to death, but kill me first. The king was now thrown into deep thought. He didn't want to lose the kingdom to someone else in the next round of life. He needed time. And now when the king came to know this from the guru, that guru wants to become the king of his country in the next life, now the king was very much worried about his position. He wanted some time before giving punishment to the guru and his disciple. So he ordered the execution postponed to the next day and talked in secret with his minister. And he told his men that now he will not execute the order of killing the guru and his disciple that day, but it will be done next day. and he had a discussion with his ministers in secret. It is not right for us to give over the kingdom to others in the next life. Let's go on the stake ourselves and we'll be reborn as king and minister again. Holy men do not tell lies, he said, and the minister agreed. So the king discussed with his minister that whoever will be killed first will become the king and whoever will be killed second will become the minister. So why give hold of our country, of our town, of our kingdom to someone else? Let's we only become the king and minister of this country in our next life. So instead of killing the Guru and his disciple, why not get ourselves executed on the stake, so that after our death, when we will reborn, we will once again become the king and the minister of this country. So he told the executioners, we'll send the criminals tonight. When the first man comes to you, put him to death first, then do the same to the second man. Those are my orders, don't make any mistake. Now, he and his minister decide to go to the stake for the execution, and he ordered the executioners that we will send 2 men to you tonight and kill them. The first one whom we will send to you, kill him first, and whom we send second, kill him second, without doing any mistake. That night, the king and his minister went secretly to the prison, released the Guru and the disciple, disguised themselves as the two, and, as arranged beforehand with loyal servants, were taken to the stake and promptly executed. And that night, the king and his minister went to the jail, and they let the Guru and his disciple go from there. They had worn their clothes. The Guru's and the disciples' clothes, disguised means they took the appearance of the Guru and his disciple and sent them away, and in their place they went to the executioners, where the executioners killed both the king and his minister. When the bodies were taken down to be thrown to the crows and vultures, the people panicked. They saw before them the dead bodies of the king and the minister. The city was in confusion. So what happened that next day, when the bodies of the executed men were taken to be thrown before the crows and the vultures, people were very much in trouble. They were very much frightened to see that who died were the king and the minister of their country. Now the whole city was in confusion that what has happened. All night they mourned. Mourned means cried on the death of the king and his minister. All night they mourned and discussed the future of the kingdom. Some people suddenly thought of the Guru and the disciple and caught up with them as they were preparing to leave town unnoticed. We people need a king and a minister, said someone. Others agreed. They begged the Guru and the disciple to be their king and their minister. Now, when they were crying and they were not knowing what will happen to their country in future, somebody saw that Guru and his disciple were preparing to leave the town. So they soon went near them and they requested them that we need a king and a minister, and why don't you only become our king and your disciple becomes our minister? It didn't take many arguments to persuade the disciple, but it took longer to persuade the Guru. The disciple was very happy that he will become the minister, so he agreed happily, but the Guru was not agreeing. So it took a long time to persuade the Guru. They finally agreed to rule the kingdom of the foolish king and the silly minister, on the condition that they could change all the old laws. From then on, both the Guru and his disciple, they agreed to become the king and the minister of that town, and they decided to do it only on one condition, that now they will change all the laws and rules made by the king and his minister. From then on, night would be night and day would again be day, and you could get nothing for a doo-doo. It became like any other place. So the guru became the king of that country, and the disciple became the minister of that country. And first of all, they became the rule that night will once again be night and day will once again be day, and no one would be able to buy anything for paying just 1 rupees, that is dudu. So once again, that country of fools became a normal place like any other place. Now this is a Kannada folk tale written by A.K. Ramanujan in Kannada language. That's all in this story.